Hi there, when I first bought my Kindle a couple years ago, I had a very big question on my mind, and that was why in the world is there no Kindle with a color display? Why are they all black and white? A very common misconception out there, one that I had myself, was that technology does not simply exist for a color e-ink device. And the e-ink technology actually is available for color displays. There are several devices out there that use e-ink but have a color display, but Kindle is actively choosing not to use that on any of their devices. What I have in my hand right here is actually the Onyx Nova 3 color device. It's an e-reader and note-taking device with a color display. Now, I am not making a review of this device today, but one thing I want to talk about and spend some time discussing is the color display technology that we have in this device. I'm going to break this video down into three different parts. First, we're talking about why color displays are a very good thing to have on e-ink devices like this. But secondly, I also want to talk about why having color displays are not a good thing to have on e-readers. And then lastly, I want to spend a bit of time talking about if I think Amazon will make a Kindle with the color display. Let's jump into it. Now, firstly, I want to talk about the advantages of having a color display on an e-reader. The first and obvious one is images. When you're reading a book, having colored images is obviously really nice to have. Not just images though, a lot of books will also have charts with multiple colors and different lines. Having those colors available to you makes it so much easier. Another use case where having a color display might be very useful is if you read comic books. Now, me personally, I don't read comics very much on my Kindle or in general for that matter, but I know a ton of people in the community love reading comic books. And if you're one of those people, obviously having a color display will make the experience so much better than black and white. I actually tried this out on my Nova 3 over here, and compared to the Kindle, it just looks so different and so much more pleasant to look through. It's a very big difference, especially for picture-heavy books like comic books. Now, the third use case why color displays might be useful is for book covers. On Kindle, every book cover is black and white. When you're navigating through the bookstore or through your own personal library of books of things you've bought, they're all black and white. Having a color display would bring so much more life to your device, especially when browsing through books you want to buy. Having that color display will make things so much more alive, and your library will look so much nicer to navigate through and flick through. Colors just add such a nice pop to your device. Black and white does get a bit boring over time. Now, the last use case I have for having a color display on an e-reader is for note-taking. Now, Kindles don't have note-taking currently, but Kobos do. So does the Nova 3 Color over here, has a stylus over here that comes on the side. And these devices, I do think Kindle will get this eventually too. Having a color display is very, very useful. This is because if you want to change the colored pen that you're using or different brushes, underline things different colors when you're annotating, color coding your system, you have that flexibility if your display supports color. With black and white, you only have different shades of gray, and that only gets you so far with note-taking. Especially if you enjoy highlighting books as you read them, having different colors is so useful. On the Kindle app, actually, they have different colors you can choose from when you're highlighting text, but you can't do that on the Kindle e-reader because there's no colors to show. It's only black and white. So I do think if Kindles did get a color, you would have this option to choose which color highlight you would want to do too. Now, all those reasons sound very useful to have a color display, but there are several reasons why I feel having a color display would not be a good thing for a Kindle. Let me talk about those now. The first reason being colors add so much distraction. And let me explain what I mean by that. Having black and white forces authors to make their books super simple when it comes to the Kindle experience. When you have different colors to choose from, there'll be definitely temptations there to add some fancy artwork or just fancier designs throughout the book that might distract you from the content. Having black and white really makes it super simple to read a book. It's just text. There's no designs or patterns or anything like that. It's all straight to the point. When you add colors, you're gonna see many more books come out with different temptations to add those colored features to the device. For me personally, I would much rather have a book that's formatted very simply compared to a book that's formatted with all these crazy things, different fonts, different colors everywhere. That's too distracting. I want my focus to be on the book and the content that I'm reading. Secondly, if they were to add a color display to a Kindle, I think we'll be seeing a lot more book judgments. And what I mean by that is a popular saying out there, never judge a book by its cover. But honestly speaking, I'm guilty guilty of this. I always judge books by their covers, especially when I go to a bookstore and see all these colorful book covers everywhere. On my Kindle though, that temptation is not nearly the same as it is in real life. And that is because book covers on a Kindle are all black and white. That actually makes such a big difference. I'm not really judging these books as much by their cover. I'm actually looking into the book and reading samples of them to see if I will like them or not. And this makes a huge difference when buying new books. Yes, having a colored book cover makes it look a lot nicer, but again, for me, I would much rather have every book on a somewhat more even playing field so I can choose the best book, not based on the cover, but the content of the book. The next reason I have why I think colors might not be a good thing for a Kindle is in regards to accessibility. With black and white, using a Kindle is accessible to basically everybody. You don't have to have perfect eyesight to read a Kindle. However, if you do add colors and they start using colors for different menus or navigating through books, whatever it might be, you're gonna have people with visual impairments who may not be able to use the Kindle as if it was a regular book. And this is actually not very applicable to most people, but for the few people out there that have color issues when seeing, this is a very big deal. Kindles are black and white right now, which means every Kindle out there is the same. There's no issue with anyone using it. When you have colors on the device, there are so many more considerations you have to make for people with visual impairments. Now, the last reason I have why I think color displays are not a good thing to have on a Kindle is because the technology really isn't that good. I have the Nova 3 Color over here, and it does have a color e-ink display, but it's not nearly as nice of an experience as my Kindle. First of all, the resolution is not as good as the Kindle, text is not as sharp, and the colors, even though they are there, they are not vibrant at all. They are very dull colors, and I actually do like the fact that they're kind of faded, they're not really shining in your face, so that is a good thing, but it's still not the same as reading a physical printed book. Those colors are so much more deeper and vibrant. On an e-ink device with the current technology, the colors just aren't the same. The other major issue we have right now with colored e-ink displays is the ghosting effect. Now look, I am not an expert on the technical aspect of e-ink, but I do know for a fact that right now color e-ink devices have a very large ghosting effect compared to black and white ones. This is because the way the design is made, there just has to be more ghosting. Now there are settings you can adjust, especially on the Nova 3 over here, that help reduce that ghosting effect, but it's still very noticeable. When you're flipping pages, you can see kind of a ghost of the previous page that you were on the current page, and sometimes it's really noticeable. It can get very distracting. It's not a very pleasant experience for reading books. Now all of this brings me to my third part of the video here, and that is if I think Amazon will create a Kindle with a color display. The short answer is yes. I do think in the future at some point we will see a Kindle with a color display, but I don't think it'll be anytime soon. What I've noticed with Amazon and their Kindle products is they tend to wait a long time before they add new breakthrough features. They want to make sure the technology is in a good place before they add it in. Case in point, we still don't have a Kindle that can take notes with the stylus. I think that is probably higher up on the priority list than a color Kindle. And we're just starting to see these things now in the Kobo lineup, so I have a feeling that Amazon is not that far behind there. They're waiting to make the technology as perfect as it can be, as seamless as it can be for anyone to use. That is why they're waiting so long for the color display technology. The current limitations with ghosting and also the color vibrancy not being too good, I think those limitations are just too great right now, which is why Amazon is not making a color Kindle. Yes, they can probably do it if they wanted to, but they want to wait for the tech to be at a better resolution, less ghosting. Once they fix all of those issues, then we'll see a Kindle with color technology. In my eyes, I do think a Kindle with color will be a nice premium feature to have, and by no means though I think it's a must-have. I still think we'll be seeing black and white Kindles for the foreseeable future, many years to come, but eventually a color Kindle will make its way to the lineup. We'll have to see how that goes. I'm really interested to hear what you have to say about this. Do you think Amazon will make a Kindle color device in the future? Why or why not? Leave a comment down below. Let's talk about this. If you enjoyed this video, check out my video with 10 tips on how to read more books this year. Link for that on the screen right now. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.